Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Sat Sat Srimat His Divine Grace Abhay Charnarvinda A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Bhagwan Ki Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maharani Ki Gaur Nitai Ki. All glories Srimad Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. All glories to assembled devotees. Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Even before the class. Thank you all for coming for this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are discussing Canto 4, Chapter 25, Text 13. The chapter title is Characteristics of King Puranjana. We'll recite the shloka. Sa ekada himavato dakshineshva atha sanushu dadarsha navabhirdvarbhihi puram lakshita lakshanam. Sa ekada himavato dakshineshva atha sanushu dadarsha navabhirdvarbhihi puram lakshita lakshanam. Sa ekada himavato dakshineshva atha sanushu dadarsha navabhirdvarbhihi puram lakshita lakshanam. Sa ekada himavato dakshineshva atha sanushu dadarsha navabhirdvarbhihi puram lakshita lakshana. Sa ekada himavato dakshineshva atha sanushu dadarsha navabhirdvarbhihi puram lakshita lakshanam. Sa ekada himavato dakshineshva atha sanushu dadarsha navabhirdvarbhihi puram lakshita lakshanam. Word to word. Saha, that King Puranjana. Ekada, once upon a time. Himavataha, of the Himalaya mountains. Dakshineshu, southern. Atha, after this. Sanushu, on the ridges. Dadarsha, found. Navabhihi, with 9. Dvarbhihi, gates. Puram, a city. Lakshita, visible. Lakshanam, having all auspicious facilities. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. Once, while wandering in this way, he saw on the southern side of the Himalayas, in a place named Bhārata-varṣa, India, a city that had 9 gates all about and was characterized by all auspicious facilities. Purport. The tract of land south of the Himalaya mountains is the land of India, which was known as Bhārata-varṣa. When a living entity takes birth in Bhārata-varṣa, he is considered to be most fortunate indeed, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has stated, Bharata bhumite haila manushya janmayana janma sarthaka karyakara para upkara. It's from Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 9.41. Thus, whoever takes birth in the land of Bhārata-varṣa attains all the facilities of life. He may take advantage of all these facilities for both material and spiritual advancement and thus make his life successful. After attaining the goal of life, one may distribute his knowledge and experience all over the world for humanitarian purposes. In other words, one who takes birth in the land of Bhārata-varṣa by virtue of his past pious activities get full facility to develop the human form of life. In India, the climatic conditions is such that one can live very peacefully without being disturbed by material conditions. Indeed, during the time of Maharaja Yudhishthira or Lord Ramachandra, people were free from all anxieties. There was not even extreme cold or extreme heat. The three kinds of miserable conditions, Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika and Adhidaivika, miseries inflicted by the mind and body itself, those inflicted by other living entities and natural disturbances, were all absent during the reign of Lord Ramachandra or Maharaj Yudhishthira. But at present, compared to other countries on earth, India is artificially disturbed. Despite these material disturbances, however, the country's culture is such that one can easily attain the goal of life, namely salvation or liberation from material bondage. Thus, in order to take birth in India, one must have performed many pious activities in a past life. In this verse, the word Lakshita Lakshanam indicates that the human body attained in Bhārata-varṣa is very auspicious. Vedic culture is full of knowledge, and a person born in India can fully take advantage of Vedic cultural knowledge and the cultural system known as Varnashrama Dharma. Even at the present time, as we travel all over the world, we see that in some countries human beings have many material facilities, but no facilities for spiritual advancement. We find everywhere the defects of one-sided facilities and a lack of full facilities. A blind man can walk but not see, and a lame man cannot walk but can see. Andha Pangu Nyaya. The blind man may take the lame man over his shoulder, and as he walks, the lame man may give him directions. Thus, combined they may work, but individually neither the blind man nor the lame man can walk successfully. Similarly, this human form of life is meant for the advancement of spiritual knowledge, spiritual life, and for keeping the material necessities in order. Especially in the Western countries, there are ample facilities for material comforts, but no one has any idea of spiritual advancement. Many are hankering after spiritual advancement, but many cheaters come, take advantage of their money, bluff them and go away. Fortunately, the Krishna consciousness movement is there to give all facilities for both material and spiritual advancement. In this way, people in the Western countries may take advantage of this movement. In India, any man in the villages unaffected by the industrial cities of India can still live in any condition and make spiritual advancement. The body has been called the city of 9 gates, and these 9 gates include 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, 1 mouth, a genital and a rectum. When the 9 gates are clean and working properly, it is to be understood that the body is healthy. In India, these 9 gates are kept clean by the villagers who rise up early in the morning, bathe in the well or rivers, go to the temples and attend Mangalarti, chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and take prasad. In this way, one can take advantage of all the facilities of human life. We are gradually introducing this system in different centers in our society in the Western countries. One who takes advantage of it becomes more and more enlightened in spiritual life. At the present moment, India may be compared to the lame man and the Western countries to the blind man. For the past 2000 years, India has been subjugated by the rule of foreigners, and the legs of progress have been broken. In the Western countries, the eyes of the people have become blind due to the dazzling glitter of material opulence. The blind man of the Western countries and the lame man of India should combine together in this Krishna consciousness movement. Then the lame man of India can walk with the help of the Westerner, and the blind Westerner can see with the help of the lame man. In short, the material advancement of the Western countries and the spiritual assets of India should combine for the elevation of all human society. We'll do the Mangalacharan and Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Shri Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Savdutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Shri Vishakhamritamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We'll read the translation once again. Once, while wandering in this way, he saw on the southern side of the Himalayas, in a place named Bhārata-varṣa, India, a city that had 9 gates all about and was characterized by all auspicious facilities. Hare Krishna, once again. So for those of us who've been living in Australia or who know how things happen here, every meeting that happens in Australia, when people get together, even in offices I've seen, they always start with this acknowledgement of the traditional custodians of the land. So they acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. So even in our Vedic cultures, if you sit for any puja or any sacrifice or any vidhis, when the priest makes you do the sankalpa is essentially the promise or setting an intention why you're doing the sacrifice. So this acknowledgement of the country comes from back then. So that's the first point related to this purport, where Prabhupada is trying to explain that Bhārata-varṣa, or the auspicious land of India, has been there way before even the Western civilization or the other civilizations came about. So coming back to the sankalpa, even when you hear the priest, they always go like Jambu Dvipe, Bhārata-varṣe, Bhārata-khande. So Jambu Dvipe is the Jambu Island, which there's a whole description of the Jambu Dvipa in Canto 5 in the following text, and then they go down to, then they keep narrowing it down to, so the Jambu Dvipa is the large island continent, and Bhārata-varṣa is the city or India as we're discussing here, and then Bhārata-khande, which is again a geographical land within the Bhārata-varṣa, and then they go further down to Australia Nagare. That's what they say even here. So it baffles me all the time. Every time they say that Jambu Dvipe, Bhārata-varṣe, Bharat-khande, Australia Nagare, Australia Pradeshe, and then North Sydney Nagare. So that's how and then they go further down to then asking you your name and go through and all your nakshatras and all and the time of the day and all of that. So that's how they invoke and that's how they set the intention for the Vedic sacrifices or the pujas or the vidhis that happen. So that the Bhārata-varṣa is actually coming from there, which essentially means that initially there was nothing but this one land, which was then divided geographically into a lot of subcontinents and continents as we know them now. If we understand this concept of India's or Bhārata-varṣa, which Prabhupada is glorifying and which also the Devas have glorified in the subsequent cantos and chapters, if we understand it from a time, place, circumstance perspective, it is timeless. Our Shastras are called timeless wisdom. And we are living in, it's Kali Yuga, but we are still living in a golden window as they call it. Why? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has walked this soil in Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga is the easiest of all the yugas to please Krishna and go back home, back to Godhead. And where does all this knowledge come from? Where do we get all this knowledge? From the Shastras that have originated from this Bhārata-varṣa that we're discussing in this canto. So, although they might say that the Westerners have made tremendous progress with industrialization and modernization and whatnot, but we'll discuss later in this class, this modernization is actually very, very old. And it's just they've just packaged it really well and they've just packaged it to suit today's modern society. But I'll bring that up later in the class, where the roots, or what they call modernization and technology or industrialization, the roots are way back in time from when Satyuga, Kali Yuga, Satyuga, Treta and Dwapara Yuga have happened. So from that point, from the time perspective, we can understand the piousness or auspiciousness or importance of Bhārata-varṣa in that way. Circumstance, if we talk about circumstance, everybody who's born in India, everybody who's in touch with anybody from India is culturally exposed. We have samskaras right from the time, not even when the child was, even before the child is born, we have something called a Garbha Samskara. And all the way till a body reaches the funeral pyre or the shamshan or the crematorium, we have what we call the Anteshti Samskaras. So throughout our life, throughout the life of a living entity, whoever has taken birth, as Prabhupada says, on the pious land of Bhārata-varṣa, is exposed to this culture, which is rooted back in Shastras, and nothing is baseless. There is this tendency of this modern youth to question why, where is this coming from? But then, they just need to read the Bhagavatam, and they'll have all the answers. And all glories to you, book distributors guys are doing just that, going out and distributing this knowledge. So that's how we understand the circumstance or the patra or the, what is it called, the avastha point, concept. And then when we come to place, the entire Bhārata-varṣa is, how do I say it? It's so spiritually fertile. There is something for everyone. There is something for every spiritual seeker. Like Krishna consciousness, we seek bhakti, we seek causeless devotional service. But then there are those who seek liberation. They know what their definition of liberation is. So there is something for them. There are those who seek material opulences. So there are tons of these, what they call Ichha Purti temples. I mean, for those who understand Hindi, they would know. Ichha Purti essentially means wish-fulfilling temples. So for those seeking material opulences and all the materialistic things, they have those kind of places where they can visit. And within India, within such a spiritually fertile land, there are 7 cities which are of prime importance, which is also mentioned in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita during Gopakumar's journey. Do you know what these 7 cities are? The sacred cities. Okay, Mathura, Mathura. Haridwar. Dwarka, Mathura, Dwarka, Rishikesh. Sorry? No. Yes. Two more. No. Where do you go to seek liberation after death? They all want to go to this place and die. Yeah, Kashi. And do you know when Lord Shiva assumes the form of Mahakal and frees us from untimely death? No, Avantika, or modern days Ujjain. So it's Mathura, Dwarka, Ayodhya, Haridwar, Kashi, Kanchipuram, which is a golden city with 1,000 temples, and sorry? Yeah, Avantika, Ujjain. So if you see, and these cities are elaborated in Brihad Bhagavatamrita in Gopakumar's journey. And within these 7 cities, Gopakumar finds out that Mathura is the supreme. Why? Because all the other places, sacred cities, give you liberation and mukti and whatnot, but it's in Mathura that we achieve devotion. It's in Mathura that we actually can feel the pastimes of the Lord, and we've seen the Lord actually play and grow up in Mathura. And that's the importance of these 7 cities, again, within the Bhārata-varṣa. Now, after that, in the purport, Prabhupada has repeated this a couple of times, that anybody who takes birth on this Bhārata-varṣa is considered to have done some pious activities. There is a reference in Srimad Bhagavatam in the next canto, in canto 5, where they are discussing the... is there a problem? Am I right? Or okay. Where they're discussing the glories of Jambudvipa, or the descriptions or characteristics of Jambudvipa. And there is a shloka, which is shloka number 21, which is Aho Amisam Kim Akari Sambhave, where the devas are asking what pious activities or what punya karmas these souls have done that they have taken birth on Bharat Bhumi. There is also a reference where Narad Muni is describing the glories of Bhārata-varṣa to, was it Shravani Muni in the 5th canto? There's a whole description and text after text glorifying the living entities who've taken birth in this Bharat Bhumi, in this Bhārata-varṣa. So that's how pious this land is considered to be, even as per the Shastras. So the devas or the demigods are like, what would it take for us to take birth? Because we all know, as much as they're enjoying the heavenly life and all the opulences, eventually they do come back down. And the only way to go back permanently, back home, back to Godhead, is by doing service which is done in a conducive environment, which is, again, a very pious land of Bhārata-varṣa, that is. And Prabhupada is so merciful that he's now giving an opportunity to even the Westerners, which he's referring to as the blind, because they're blinded. They don't know what they're running after. So that's what Prabhupada is saying here, that although India is so culturally rich and so spiritually advanced, because of so many factors, external and internal, over the past few years, he's not talking about Treta Yuga and Dwapar Yuga, because he's clearly said that in those ages, in the ages of Yudhishthira Maharaj and Lord Ramachandra, everything was peaceful, everything was fine. I mean, we've never heard of anyone suffering from depression back in those days, have we? It's a problem of Kali Yuga. And that has happened because there has been some misalignment somewhere. People have stopped following the Varnashrama Dharma, which Prabhupada is mentioning here. Think about it. When you follow the Varnashrama Dharma, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do at the age you're supposed to do that. There was a concept of Gurukul where children were sent to live with their spiritual masters and their friends or associates right from the age of, was it 5 or 8? 5, yeah. And then they went and lived in the ashram. What you guys are doing now, they used to do that when they were kids. So they grow up with that consciousness, with that mentality to live a disciplined life, to live the brahmachari life, no mingling with any unwanted association. So their consciousness gets prepared. So when they move on to the grihastha ashram, they are entering grihastha ashram with the right mentality, right consciousness. And they end up becoming grihasthas and not grihamedis, like we discussed a couple of classes back. And once they are done with their householder duties, then they move on to doing the vanaprastha, which is then moving out of the house and preaching and traveling all over and passing on this message. And finally, sannyasa. But because that system was broken, and it was deliberately broken, as we've learned and as we know, that the first thing that the Britishers attacked or the Mughals attacked on India or Indian culture was they destroyed the dharma, or they destroyed the Gurukul structure. Because they knew that if these men or if these people end up become spiritually strong, then they are a force to reckon with. So they abolished the Gurukul system. They introduced syllabuses where they taught us all this nonsense that they want us to hear. There is this there's this dialogue between, not a dialogue, in the Transcendental Diaries by Hari Saura Prabhuji. He's mentioning this conversation he's had with Prabhupada, where Prabhupada is talking exactly this. Prabhupada is like, India was a simple country, people were living a simple life, yet they had high spiritual standards. But then some rascals, Prabhupada uses this word, some rascal teacher comes, some rascal leader comes, and then they're filling the youth with all sorts of nonsense. They're like, we lived a simple life and everything was working fine. And then he gives an example of your shaving. He's like, shaving is such a simple activity. Why do you need modern machines for that? Prabhupada's point is just minimize, and that's how life was before the so-called modernization and industrialization. Prabhupada is like, if we have an arm, why do we need pillows? If we are perfectly fine sleeping on the floor, which is really healthy for the body, for the joints and any aches and pains, then why do we invest in mattresses? There are showrooms for mattresses. Can you believe it? Like, Prabhupada is like, we don't need all of this. We need to minimize and simplify. And this is the reason why India has become lame, as Prabhupada mentions in this purport. It's just become lame because it's been attacked and it's been corrupted by all these influences. That's what Prabhupada was saying when he was. It's nice. It fails me which volume. It's volume 2, I think. So, but you guys can look it up. There's this conversation there. And coming back to what the land was prior to it become corrupted, it was such a pious land. And what Prabhupada is referring here, where villagers rise up early, we are doing that. And that is what is needed. In fact, when I was thinking and I was meditating, it's why just the human beings, even the animals that were born in, or that have taken birth in Bhārata-varṣa, aren't they also so lucky to have taken birth? The cows, just imagine the cows who've played with Krishna, who've served Krishna, as opposed to the cows who probably bred here who end up in slaughterhouses. The horses, they were being used for Ashwamedha yajnas, for a better, like Mataji was saying, for a better second life or third life or whatever, as opposed to the horses here who are being run and chased to win the Derby titles. They're bred just so that they can win races, really, and people can make money off it. It's just bewildering. I don't understand. Even the bears and the monkeys. Darwin's theory that we all came from apes is refuted right there and then. If we've had bears and monkeys who've served the Lord, we have Hanuman, who is a monkey. They call him the monkey god, who served Lord Ramachandra. So how can you tell us that we've come from monkeys? Long before even Galileo discovered that the world is the earth is round, Varahadev proved it to us. It's in the Shastras. When he lifted the whole earth on his tusks like a ball, it's mentioned in the Shastras. So Galileo comes many thousand years later and claims that the world is round. No, we know that, dude. We've already known that for so long. Even the Sanskrit word for earth is bhugol. Bhu is earth and gol is round. So we've known that. And they're just coming by now and claiming false superiority by telling us things we already know. We've probably just ignorant, we've just forgotten what we already know, what our Shastras have taught us, and there's a need for us to wake up and pass on this message through the Sankirtan moment. So that's what I was contemplating. Again, when I was thinking about it, if assuming Darwin's theory is correct, that we've come from apes, then what about the other 8.4 million species? What happens to that? We've heard time and again that there are, and every living entity goes through these 8.4 million species. How do you explain that then? How do you explain a soul transmigrating? So that's the point Prabhupada is also trying to make here, that the civilization has become lame. Now, another thing Srila Prabhupada is talking about here is modernization, and how that is actually causing the downfall of such a pious spiritual society that we have, India. In fact, in this book, Searching for Vedic India, our Guru Maharaj has written that. He's made, if you've not read the book, read it. Personally, it's too heavy for me, but the Guru Maharaj is making 2 points, that the earth has been inhabited by intelligent life since many lifetimes. What that means is, we all know there are 4 yugas. And life has been, or rather, those 4 yugas have had intelligent living beings. That's what Guru Maharaj is saying. Then again, that again also refutes Darwin's theory that human civilization and evolution has happened only recently. And another point he makes is about the technology and the modernization which we talk about in today's day and age is also nothing new. It's been there even from many millennials ago. The modern day aeroplanes, we've had aeroplanes. Bhagavatam tells us there are descriptions in the Bhagavatam about these flying airplanes. If we read Kapil Dev's section, when Kardama Muni was approaching Mother Devahuti, he actually flew to her in an airplane bedecked with jewels and everything. So modern aircrafts, commercial aircrafts, or whatever they call it, it's not new. It's been there even from many years ago, lifetimes ago. They had floating palaces. Isn't that technology? It was technology. Okay, technology not the way we understand it, but it's technology at the end of the day. Even the warfare, the ammunitions, Brahmastra is the equivalent to today's nuclear arms, isn't it? And it's been there from those ages. The chariots had wheels, so how can they say the wheel was invented just recently? The chariots, when they rode the chariots, they rode on wheels, isn't it? When Ram had to cross the Ganga to go over to the other side during his exile period, and the boatman carried Ram, Lakshman, Sita ji in a boat, how can he tell us a boat is something that is invented recently? So that's the point Prabhupada is also trying to make here, that modernization is not so modern after all. It's been there, it's been around for many lifetimes ago. And we have all of that in the Shastras, the description of each of that in the Shastra. The need for us right now is just to make this information known, make this knowledge known to those who are being misled by whatever they're teaching us under the name of New Age studies or whatever it is. We go back to them. Just tell them it's very simple. I was telling in the last class also, science ruins everything. Life is so simple and so nice and peaceful and so beautiful when we think and when we start believing that everything is Krishna's, everything belongs to Krishna. Krishna is the controller, creator, and he runs the show. Everything becomes so easy and beautiful. There's no need for us to rack our brains and think and complicate life more than it should be. Prabhupada has given us the 4 regulative principles. We follow the 4 regulative principles, do what we have to, lead a Krishna conscious life, and there it is. Solution to all modern day problems. And that's what they did. That's what, when Prabhupada is talking about the Varnashrama, that's what Prabhupada is alluding to. You follow what you're supposed to do, follow the rules or principles that you're supposed to at the time you're supposed to, and life is simple. Why does the government need to impose social media bans? If children are taught, or if the children are taught to get into a habit of reading something which is beneficial to them, both spiritually and in their life, then they won't need to look at all this nonsense. They look at all of this, and then the government imposes bans to stop the children from consuming all this unwanted things. Again, that's why Varnashrama is so important. You lead a brahmachari life where you're taught the do's and don'ts of life based on the Shastras. It's not something that it's just come out of thin air. It's been passed on, and it's been followed generations after generations for us to lead a sattvic life. Every millennial, in fact, coming back to the 7 cities that I mentioned earlier, they say that when Ayodhya gives you the wisdom to lead a life full of moral standards and a righteous life, because Ayodhya belongs to Lord Ramachandra, who's Maryada Purushottam. He tells us how to live life by the rules, how to live life righteously. You go to Kashi Vishwanath, he'll grant you liberation, he'll grant you mukti, he'll grant you the word fails me. You're not scared of death anymore, essentially. He'll make you fearless. You go to Mathura, like we discussed, he'll grant you bhakti. And that's what we're here for. We sing, all we want is causeless devotional service. And that's the answer to these modern day problems. That's the way we can actually stop that 4th leg, or that leg from being cut, as Prabhupada is mentioning. The Bhārata-varṣa, India as a city, the culture is becoming lame because of this. Because we are running after and we are just chasing unwanted or unhealthy lifestyles. So that's the purport. We've discussed how it takes a pious activity from many lifetimes ago for a living entity to be born in India. And then we discussed the Varnashramas. We discussed how spiritually fertile the land of Bhārata-varṣa is. Then Prabhupada describes how modernization or the Western civilization has influenced our spiritual culture and our culture to an extent that we are now actually degrading the whole system, and it's causing a lot of problems. And then finally, Prabhupada's mentioning that that's why there is a need to go out there is a need to expand the Sankirtan movement just so that we can drive home the point and pass on the message and pass on this timeless wisdom from the Shastras, so that we can all come back to a civilization, or rather create a civilization which is conducive to our devotional life, devotional service, and for a happy, stress-free existence on this planet. So with that, I'd like to conclude. Thank you so much. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur.